So you would see a role for mentoring in the workplace in ethics?
Yes, I think that mentoring is critical, and particularly in jobs in the selling organization, in any jobs in purchasing where there's negotiating that goes on. And clearly, just even in this day and age, companies are not islands as we often used to be, where you have to partner. Sometimes you compete with other companies on one arena and you partner with them in a different way. And you really have to understand kind of the rules of the road about how to do that. Mm-hmm. And even when you're working together in industry and in trade associations, a lot of that it doesn't necessarily come naturally. So you really have to understand and make it your business to understand that, so that it's kind of like the road signs when you're driving. You just really have to be able to understand when a flag goes up or when a light turns red, and if you're not sure, to go ask and get help. Some of the biggest mistakes get made not from malicious intent, but just because people really don't understand and they don't ask. And that can cause a lot of problems, not only for them personally, but for their corporation. And many times, I've done a lot of reading on this and frankly have experienced some of it too. Many times it's employees trying to do the right thing. For example, trying to speed a product to a customer, get a decision made quickly, that they skip some steps that they shouldn't skip in a process. It's with every good intention.
Sure, those are both virtues under normal circumstances.
Yes. And I think that that's part of just really understanding, what the rules of the road are. And in order to do that, you have to be trained, and you have to refresh that training. And particularly these days, because so many businesses operate globally, and operating on a global stage does create a lot of opportunity, but it also creates a lot of challenge that can get you into some murky waters ethically.
I want to ask you, do you have any perspectives that you could share with us on the issues of diversities, particularly gender and race, in the public relations field today?
I am a big fan of diverse teams. And I think diversity covers a lot more than just gender and race. I think diversity has to do with the way people approach doing their work. I think that you have to look at having a mix of people that are analytical and people that look at things in maybe a more creative way. I think that you want to think about different life experiences, and some of that has to do with a mix of young and older, because I think you get a very different perspective that way. I think if you're in a global company, when you put together a team, if you have a global team, that usually helps inform your thinking. So I just personally think the more diverse your team is, the better solutions you're going to come up with. And I have proven that time and time again when I've put together teams. People tend to put teams together that are people like them. I mean, that's your natural inclination. And when you do that, you really won't get the best result in communications or frankly anything else. I certainly think that it's important for all of us to try to make sure women and people from diverse ethnic backgrounds are considered on every slate of candidates for every job. I always do that. But I think in the end, you pick the best person for the job. But the important thing is to get the right slate. And when you get the right slate, you will build a diverse team. I know, because I've done it time and again. And I think it's important to do for all the reasons we just talked about. You want to get the most diverse team possible. This is something I learned a long time ago too, and it's just, that's part of how to be a good leader. It's the same type of management or leadership doesn't always work with each of the people that works for you. You have to get to know the people and understand what motivates them, and you have to try to flex your style to use what motivates people to get them to drive results. And that involves getting to know people. Yeah. And that takes time. People don't always reveal all their inner secrets to you right away, or if ever. And so some of that comes back to the trust question. This is kind of common sense, but it's trust in relationships. How do you build friendships? How do you build relationships in your personal life? Some of that is the same sort of thing at work, even though you're not trying to be everybody's best friend. You are trying to understand things about that person, why they behave the way they do. And frankly, when you're working with high-powered, if your culture is type A's and high-powered, which many of the cultures where I have worked are, you really have to try to figure out, when everyone is trying to make their own contribution, how you're going to collaborate and work together with everybody also getting to leave their fingerprints and imprint on things.
Right.
And so part of that really is, you're also a psychology student. I think it would help if I had it to do over again. I would also take more psychology courses and social science courses.
There's
To really understand.
only so much you can cram in there between 18
No.
and 22. Yeah.
But you can also, studying is a lifelong
Well, that's
thing.
right.
Reading,
That's
studying, learning, and frankly, that's the one thing I regret. If I had more time, I would be going to night school all the time, but because my jobs have always been ones where I travel a lot, I used to sign up for courses and miss half of them. But there's also self-study, and I do think a lot of that, and communicators especially usually are very good readers, and they're usually voracious readers. There's a lot you learn just on your own by reading, and it's important to do that and keep up with all the new social science and things that are coming out about even how people make buying decisions. And it's not just your alliances at work, but it's sort of your alliances or your influence skills on whoever your customers are. And that is not just the purview of marketing. That was always very interesting to me, and how communications can make an impact on that. And if you manage marketing communications, you have a piece of it, and I have usually managed that, but it's also really getting in there with the sales guys and gals and understanding what is it that they do to sell things. How do they do it, and what could they be doing better? Because communications can bring a lot to that party as well, if you bring those skills.
Angela Buonocore, thank you very much.
Thank you.